All right, well, morning everyone. Welcome back to the channel. Today I saw some mist and fog in the forecast, so we came down to our local little area. You can kind of see it in the baseball fields behind me. So we're gonna go for a hike down the nature trail and see if we get any of the fog and or mist is sort of prevalent in the trees. And if so, we at least have an interesting photograph and a backdrop. But mostly, it's been 2 weeks now. I'm sure you've noticed in the past few videos, I haven't used my scooter, even though the weather is perfect out right now. Well, I had to order a brand new tire, and it finally came in. I think it was about 10 or 11 days, and it probably takes about 2 hours or so to actually install the tire, and then at least a day or two of me only driving maybe 15 or 20 kilometers around my house, just to verify the tire is okay. I'm gonna start hiking around now. We'll see if we can find any mist. When I was walking across the bridge, I was looking up here. The water level is very low, whereas normally this entire rock section that we're standing on would be completely submerged in water. But as it has not rained that much at all, actually, it's fairly dry, and the water is kind of very nicely diverting around me. And further on up, you see quite a few levels of the rocks. So I'm just trying to get it centered in the frame here. And I want to try it in a couple of different ways. One of them, of course, is vertical like that. The other one is horizontal, to try to bring in a few more elements. We've gotten a couple pictures now from the vertical as well as horizontal. And I zoomed in a little bit to the 1.6 or the 80 millimeters, just to kind of punch in a little bit, getting closer to right where the water is starting to spill out. So the sky today is very blue with very few clouds. So I'm trying to remove as much of it as possible. And thankfully, right behind where the level is right now, the sun is just starting to hit the levels of the trees. So this is pretty much what the composition looks like. As you can see, the sky in the background with all the blue doesn't really fit the photograph right now, as this is a little bit more of an intimate landscape. I'm trying to build in the foreground elements with these rocks. And on this side over here, we have this little sandbar. That is, of course, our main subject is coming right down from the waterfall. And then on this side over here, there's a little bit of a walk path with a bunch of moisture all over it. And then remove the sunlight completely. All right, now I'm gonna insert the photo in the picture for you guys to see now. Now, this morning on the ride over, it was probably about 6 or 7 degrees. So it is quite chilly out this morning, but once I started hiking around, I really noticed how quickly it warms up. The only problem, of course, is now that I've stopped, I have to put my jacket back on because it is starting to get a little chilly again. Even though this is the very first photograph I stopped to see, the light is just starting to pop up overhead right now, and it's just starting to flood the area over here. You can see vehicles going by in the background, kind of changing the sunlight just a little bit. Once there's a bit more light added to the yellow trees in the background, and then of course the mid-ground here, we can actually see a lot of the rocks poking out through the water. The only problematic portion of it, which was where I kind of thinking I might do my next photo, I'm gonna have to hike my way through here and then go stand right over there. Just so that I can try to get a little bit closer to the waterfall. I had to move you all the way over there, same with my backpack and everything else, just to kind of get it out of the way. I was a little bit precarious over there and I didn't really feel comfortable with it sitting over the water. At least now you're quite a bit further away, so I feel a bit more comfortable. Same with my backpack, everything else I just kind of throw over there, just get it out of the way. Now I'm going to frame up this shot, trying to get a closer punch in, so I zoom back into the 80 millimeters, trying to fill the frame with just the subject, the waterfall coming down gently beside the rocks. So right now I'm trying to get all of the rocks basically in the frame right now, and still get a little bit of the bubbles, kind of give it motion. So I'm gonna put it up to f18, and we have 1/4 of a second. Now we're gonna start trying to incorporate the sunlight bathing the trees in the background. First of all, make sure this is balanced. All right, so I reworked the composition a little bit, trying to put the trees, because there's 2, maybe 3-ish yellow trees now that are kind of the central focus in the background. Those and the waterfalls are my main subjects. But this time I'm gonna try focusing on the tree in the background and see if it throws all of the foreground out of focus. So I'm gonna put this back up. We're gonna go back down to f4. Let's do f2.8. And then we are down to 1/1600 of a second. Wow. So I've gotten focus perfect on that tree. So f2.5, 1/648th of a second, focusing in on the background trees. I want to see if it makes any difference with the foreground, if it throws it a little bit more out of focus, as there are a lot of rocks and other kind of loose stuff here that doesn't really look very appealing. So I'm going to try to work the composition a little bit more. So f2.5, 1/640th of a second. Again, this time I tried framing up the entire tree, as well as kind of cutting out most of the rocks here where you see a lot of the moss and kind of just there looking, and then kind of focused a little bit further in with the waterfall as my foreground image, and then the background is the tree that I focused on. So something that challenges you, that actually engages your creativity, I don't know why, it fires me up a lot today. Like, I'm a lot more engaged now. I'm a lot more excited to actually find more compositions, whereas earlier I was almost ready to go home. It's funny how just one little simple photograph, one simple small idea, one little spark, and now all of a sudden you can have an entire forest fire of creativity. Well, I'm gonna show you guys what the picture looks from my end. Just see the sun starting to peek through now. And then right over there, you can see how the sun is just bathing those trees in the backdrop. And those are the main subject, as well as this waterfall right here. All right, now here's how the composition is looking. So you see the trees there. That is kind of the main subject, as well as the waterfalls that are sort of falling over there. So I've been just inching the photograph left and right. So I've settled in on this composition where the tree is kind of in the center top right. And so this is back at 50 millimeters. I was trying to frame it up with this almost in the center. But the problem is you lose a lot of the backdrop and you kind of lose a little bit of this foreground element, which doesn't really do very much. Go to a 1:1 maybe, 4:3, 16:9. We just go back into full frame, and then we get both subjects where we get the two waterfalls down here, as well as the main tree in the background. We focused in on the tree. See how this one looks. So it's probably been about 25 minutes, maybe half an hour. Ignore the noise, they're just changing the garbage as well as other stuff on the trails. So it's just the trail maintenance people. So, all right, we're gonna give them a minute to go by us really loud. F16, 1/25 of a second. So the light has been changing quite a lot. The sun has just peered up over the mountain, and it's starting to kind of cast this light through the trees, which is giving it some really interesting contrast. And it's not as harsh as I thought it would be, considering we're shooting a little bit away from the sun right now. But the sun is completely bathing the tree now that I sort of have as my backdrop. The sun is completely bathing that now in its light. And just in the foreground where you see the waterfalls just popping into existence. So I've been trying to change up the composition and looking at sort of different framings that I want. The problem is though, is when I use full frame, almost, I'm about to say about a third or so of the picture is taken up by the sky, and there is no atmosphere. There are no clouds, just clear blue skies. And that is really boring. Like, it just really looks unappealing to the eye. So I've been trying to work the composition down a little bit more. So first thing was we went into 80 millimeters, and I tried framing this shot right in the dead center. The problem with that is on the right side over here, you kind of see a lot more of the rocks. It is not as appealing as the left side with the waterfalls and kind of like the cascading little effects of the rocks as it kind of descends in levels. That is actually kind of interesting. But it's not as interesting on the right-hand side of the frame. So I've been inching my way over, trying to move the camera a bit more to the left to get as the sunlight comes and streams through. Now I am gonna have to start compensating for the sunlight as it is very bright. So I'm under by one full stop right now. And I'm pretty sure I'm gonna have to work in Lightroom. I'm gonna have to mask the sky anyway to bring down the highlights a lot. So we're at F16, 1/25 of a second, focused in on the tree again. So we've been here for probably about, I wanna say 45 minutes, maybe an hour. I'm gonna insert the best photograph that we took from here. I'm gonna probably put 1 or 2, just sort of changing up as the light was changing, because earlier on I had a bit of a longer shutter speed so we could get a bit of movement in the water. And now that the sunlight has popped up a lot more, and I'm introducing more of the background, sorry, the sunlight is a lot more harsh up there, and I'm having to keep ramping up the shutter speed just to try to even out the composition. So after we left the riverbed earlier, I was riding down the trail and I saw this tree. So the one tree has kind of collapsed and has fallen into the other tree that's sort of holding it up. However, there's been so much rot and decay. I'm gonna bring the camera over and show you guys, but there are a bunch of holes actually coming through the tree. So I'm gonna see if I can try to use that as an actual natural frame. So I'll show you guys what it looks like from over here. Now from this angle, let me punch in a little bit. Through it, there's not very much interest in it. There's like just very little, if anything. So we're gonna try walking around from the other side and seeing how this side looks. So from this side, it looks a little bit more pronounced. And if I zoom in and fill the frame with it, and if I were to at least actually do a vertical orientation, this could actually look really interesting. So here's what it looks like through the actual arch in the tree. And I'll pull it back so you guys can actually get a better view. So from the back side of the tree, and or at least from this side, I'm gonna try taking the picture through the actual tree from this angle. And this little thing actually almost kind of looks like a perfect little arch. You can see how much decay the tree has as it's literally leaning on the one beside it to hold it up. Otherwise it would have already collapsed. And it already is kind of looking like it's starting to actually add some weight to the other tree. All right, well, we're gonna have to hope I'm in shot right now, / in frame, otherwise, well, this is gonna be awkward. So I've been kind of hiking around a little bit, changing up the composition through the archway. It's a very interesting shot as you're very limited by the size of the arch to how much stuff you can actually look through on the other side. Now, luckily the sunlight is streaming through the trees, so it is giving it kind of a bit of a, I don't know, it's giving it a bit more mood. The light out today is phenomenal. Now it is a little bit harsher out as it is direct sunlight overhead. It's probably like 4 o'clock in the afternoon, yeah, 4:30. So we only have another hour or 2 before sunset. So the light right now is a little bit diffused, but it is still very harsh, but it's just beaming through in the forest right now, just hitting random pieces of trees and random parts of the ground. So that's kind of the interest in the background. Now we may convert one of these to black and white too. I'm gonna have to wait till I see it in the computer. All right, I'm gonna bring the camera over and show you guys what I'm looking at. Now, this is how the frame looks from my side, looking through the tree. I settled in on this as one of the actual, first we're gonna focus in on the middle back there. So now we're gonna go into the 80 millimeters, and fill the frame up just a little bit more. F2.2, 1/25th of a second. Now I'm going to increase that a little bit to go up to F4. Let's go about 5.6. One more shot. And then we're going to focus one in on the actual tree. And then if worse comes to worse, we can blend the two later on in Photoshop. Although I kind of like it where the tree itself is out of focus and everything behind it is completely in focus. To me, that does look a little bit more interesting, as you can actually fill the frame almost completely with the tree. So I've changed the angle up a little bit. I raised this all the way to its maximum height now, and I'm looking pretty much dead center through this. And I'm using the full frame now, almost kind of, let's see if I can let it go up anymore. So I'm filling the frame now completely, and we're gonna try testing both of them between the 80mm and then the 50mm. And which one do we like more? Well, I'm gonna insert the photo now. Let me know what you guys think about this one. So starting on the dried out riverbed and riding down the trail, this one has by far my favorite, just because it kind of looks a little interesting, where you're sort of almost looking through almost like a little arch, like a little window almost into like nature itself. Well, thanks for stopping by the channel today, guys. If you like this kind of content, like and subscribe to the channel for more, and we'll catch you guys again next week. See ya.